I don't know if you'll see this, but let's see. So let's start with a little meditation. And meditation begins by, the intention of meditation, shall we say, is to get out of our head and to come into our body, right? That's the pathway to then connect with our soul. So that's really the intention, is to get out of the head and connect with our soul, to connect with who we are. So we begin with some deep breathing, because it is the breath. The breath is the life energy, the life force. Without that, nothing, we would not exist at all. Every breath we have is actually a gift from God, and most people we never think of that. It's so much taken for granted that our breath is just happening. But why is it happening? And what is the importance of it? Yeah, you might know the biological stuff, but what is the spiritual significance of that? Our breath actually is the most important thing that connects us with our spirit. It brings you back home to who you are. So let's start with connecting with our breath. And so I'd like you just to breathe deeply. And as you breathe, just pay attention to the breath as it goes in and out. Make sure that as you're breathing in, your belly comes out. And as you breathe out, your belly goes in. That's how it needs to be. That's healthy. That's the healthy breathing pattern. If you're doing it the other way, then you might need to practice changing your breathing pattern. And you can do that very easily by lying down and placing a book on your belly. You lie down, place a book on your stomach, and then when you breathe in, make sure the book goes up. But right now, for today's purpose, just place your hand on your stomach and make sure that when you breathe in, your belly comes out. When you breathe out, your belly goes in. It's very simple. And as you're doing that, bring your attention to the breath, to the incoming and the outgoing breath. This is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all meditation. This is the essence of meditation. Everything else is added on. After taking a few deep breaths, then let's begin with the chanting of the mantra Om. Om, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is the symbol Om is a representation for the divine. It is a representation of God. It is a representation of Krishna. Krishna says that I am Omkar. Omkar refers to Om. It's a full form, full name of it. So he says, I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. And we will chant that in its parts, A, U, Ma, Aum, which together becomes Om. But when you're chanting it, you break it up, A, U, Ma. The M sound needs to resonate with when you keep your mouth closed and let it resonate inside. So let's begin. Let that sound resonate for as long as possible. Then pause. Take another deep breath in. Pause again. And let's do it one more time. Deep breath in. Pause. The same Om is used in the Vedic mantras. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudev is the name of Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Try and recite with me. I'll do it one more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate refers to Bhagavan. Bhagavan is how the Bhagavad Gita refers to Krishna. Bhagavan means the supreme Godhead. The term means that who is the source of all creation. And in the 10th chapter, we've been reading about how Krishna claims to be the source of all creation. Now, I say the word claims because I want to stay as objective as possible in reading the Gita. The Gita is not a faith-based practice, but rather a spirituality that is based on real life experience and evidence. But it does rely on spiritual practice, which is the process of realization. Therefore, as you said, Ryan, you came across a book called Self-Realization. And realization means experiencing of, to realize. When I realize that I made a mistake, I become aware of something I wasn't aware of earlier. I thought I was doing the right thing, and then someone pointed it out to me, and now I realize that I didn't do the right thing. And so maybe I apologize for that reason. So a realization is an awakening. A realization is a point of inflection. It is a point at which we understand something we did not understand earlier. The reason it's called self-realization is because we thought we were something else, and now we realize that that was not true. We thought we were this mind and body, this organism that we live in. We thought that this is who I am. This body is who I am. Now this body has become old, and oh my gosh, how terrible it is. And oh, now this body has become sick, and oh my gosh, how terrible that is. And then our mind, and we were young, we didn't know much, and we were just playful and silly. And when we got older, we thought we became very serious. And as we're getting older, we might be forgetting things. And we might be wondering, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. The problem is that we have become too much identified with our mind. And that is the cause of great material advancement, no doubt. No doubt. I will give it that 100%. But it is also the cause of our greatest suffering. All mental disease, all our problems arise actually in our mind. All our unhappiness, all our grief, all our sorrow, all our suffering arises in the mind. And unless we're able to conquer the mind, we won't be able to reach that place of happiness. So realization means realizing that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not the personality, I am not anything that I thought I was. In other words, anything that I thought I was, I am not that. Because think of it like this. I thought I am something, but because you thought something doesn't make it true. Right? There's many things we think, and they're often not true. Like, I think someone doesn't like me, but they might not. They might just be having a bad day. And I mean, my interpretation of something doesn't make it a fact, right? I think that, oh gosh, we've had so many controversies these days about what people think. And unfortunately, much of those controversies are based on people's opinions. And as someone once said to me, he says, opinion is the lowest form of intelligence. Opinions are what people think. They're not scientific. They're not a fact. They've never, unless you challenge them. So once you start challenging your thought, you realize most of the time that your thought isn't true. If you've never challenged your mind, please try. It's an amazing experience to have, to turn around, and this very mind which you believed in so blindly, which you accepted its word for everything it said, you thought that this was, the ultimate truth is what you think. This is my truth. People say that. They said, this is my truth. Well, what do you mean by this is your truth? Oh, this is what you think is true. I see. And how infallible is your thinking? How true is your thinking? So often we think that we know what someone else is thinking, but do we? We think that something happened to us because, and maybe someone left us, now no one will ever love us. We think, we generalize about the future and we make up stories about the past. But is our thinking necessarily true? How often have we challenged our thinking? So we want to approach the Bhagavad Gita not based on our thoughts and opinions, but based upon actual um, study, not just into the language and not just into the characters and the people and all the great saints and rishis and what they had to say, but also in our own lives. So the idea of meditation is to bring you into an experience, a realization of who you really are, right? An awakening. And that happens by quietening the mind. It's an interesting phenomenon. Once the mind gets quiet, you're able to feel and experience the soul. You will not be able to think about it or rationalize it or understand it. You will experience it. It's an experience that is beyond the mind. It is not an experience that you will understand with the mind. I don't know if I'm making sense here. Yeah. It is an experience, just like taste, right, is not something you will understand with your mind. You may tell me you like, let's say, tiramisu, and somebody else likes vanilla ice cream or whatever, and it's so subjective. I mean, but how do you taste it? Do you think about the taste? No, you feel it, you experience it. The smell of a flower. Somebody likes roses, someone likes gardenias, but it's so unique, that flower. How do you describe it? How do you explain it? How do you understand it? It's almost impossible. So, in much the same way, we're going to approach the Gita and the understanding it's trying to give us of self realization, the realization of who we are at a level of experience, at an experiential level, shall I say. So, let's read what it says. Now, Krishna has been saying here that I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. I'm just going back a few verses on here because they were so powerful. And then he's gone on to say that I am seated in everyone's heart, right? And that I am the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. I am the eternal, transcendental, original person. I am unborn. And all great sages, going back thousands of millennia, have confirmed this about me. And he says, I am the super soul, the Paramatma, seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. I am the beginning, the middle, and end of all things. And then he goes on that of all the Vedas, I am the Samaveda, the demigods, I am Indra, and so on. Of Rudras, I am Shiva, right? I am the ocean. So in this way, he is going on and on about how everything comes from him and he is everything. All right. Now, as he goes through the list of things, and I'm going to skip through some of them and come to chapter 10, text number 31. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons, I am Ram. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of the flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle. Try and understand this. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, or as we were saying earlier, self-realization. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. So earlier he said he was Shiva, now he says he is Brahma, He goes through all the different demigods and he says, I am all of them. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. So, in other words, the future, the generating principle of all that is yet to be. So, on one hand, he talks about how he is life, and he also talks about how he is death. He talks about how he is the beginning and how he is the end and the middle. It's fascinating to hear that he is not, he's going through all polarities, all different sides, all different possibilities. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. He's talking about feminine qualities. He says, I am all of that. I am the hymns in the Samaveda. I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December, and of seasons, I am the flower-bearing spring. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid, I am splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjun. He's talking about, the great personalities that have lived. And of sages, he says, I am Vyasa, the one who wrote all the Vedas. And among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am wisdom. It's a lot to take in, and I invite any of you that have any questions to please raise your hand and let me know. But he's going through quite a list of things over here. There's this thing I've often seen. There's a lot of folks in today's time who go around saying, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. And beyond that, they really don't have much to say. It's not like they've got any evidence for their godliness, nor can they really. I mean, even if the people who claim that, let's say, the Sikhs will claim Guru Nanak is God, the Christians will claim that Christ is God. But at no point do they have anything near as elaborate as what Krishna is describing here. I don't mean to create one superior than another. God is in everything, and in one sense in everyone. And there is nothing separate from God, as you're beginning to see here. And yet Krishna is making it very clear that he is the origin of it all, right? He's not mincing words. Christ does say, I stand at the right hand of my Father. I and the Father are one. This is true. But one who has developed oneness with God has simply merged with the divine. Doesn't mean they are God. Because to be God is to be the fountainhead, so to speak, the ocean. The ocean is not the same as the drop of water from the ocean. There's a big difference. We are like that drop of water, right? When we go and that drop of water from the ocean is put back into the ocean, it merges with the ocean. It becomes one with the ocean. So when we become realized, when we have ourselves realized, we come and merge back into that ocean, which is God. We feel a sense of oneness with God. That's a very different statement than what Krishna is making out here. He says furthermore, among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am wisdom. Yeah. Then in text number 39, I want to kind of go over the Sanskrit of that. Let's see if I have the... Yes, I do. I want to read you the original text on the Bhagavad Gita, because number 39 is again, one of those very seminal verses where he really goes into explaining the depth of who he is. Now, Arjun will challenge him in the next chapter. Krishna's made a lot of claims here, and so Arjun will actually challenge him. That is the next chapter that we'll probably touch on today itself. Um, but yeah, give me a moment here. This is important to read in the original Sanskrit because it will explain to you. Yeah. So he says, Yat chapi sarva bhutanam bijam tad aham Arjun natad asti vinayat syan maya bhutam characharam. He says, I am the generating seed of all existence, meaning like just like from a tree can come out of a seed. He says, I am the generating seed of all existence. There is no being moving or unmoving that can exist without me. No, a drop of water from the ocean is not the ocean. A drop of water from the ocean is a drop of water from the ocean, but is not the ocean. It has the qualities of the ocean. And so, yes, in a sense, we are, and yet we're not. Okay? That drop of water is wet, just like the ocean. But it does not have the magnificence or the power of the ocean. In that sense, in terms of quality, it is same. So we are qualitatively same as Krishna, though at this point, we are not even qualitatively the same. We are completely covered over. Our true qualities, our true nature is actually hidden, right? And it needs to be awakened. When it is awakened, we actually experience a sense of oneness, a coming home. Any person who has experienced an awakening or an enlightenment will describe this to you, the sense of feeling like they are connected to everything, feeling that they are one with everything, right? And so, in that sense, when they become one with everything, they will feel as if they are God. No doubt, right? When that drop of water goes into the ocean, it will merge with that ocean and will experience itself that way. But there is a huge difference. The ocean is still the ocean. So Krishna is speaking of himself as that source, as that ocean. We, in the Sanskrit words, we are called jiva, and we are spoken of as being infinitesimal. Infinitesimal means infinitely tiny, right? And God is referred to as infinite. So the infinitesimal and the infinite. And yet we are of the same quality. Are you getting that? Yeah. So, in a sense, when you merge with that ocean of God, you do experience what God is. Yet you do not become God. In other words, you even then, even as an enlightened being, could not create another human being, for example, or an animal, a dog, a cat, a mosquito for that matter, could not. There is no enlightened being, whether it was Buddha or Christ or anyone else, who could have produced another being or a planet or a universe. Now, Krishna is claiming that he's done that. We're going to see how Arjun challenges him. Is there something more to this or not? So, these are the last two verses of this chapter, and then we'll come to that part. Krishna continues. He says, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Know that all opulent, beautiful, wherever you see beauty, you're seeing God. And glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. In fact, the word Krishna means the all attractive one. So beautiful that everyone is attracted. It's not a case of imposing on someone that, oh, you must follow me, otherwise you're going to hell. But rather, he's so attractive that people cannot resist him. Right? They're just drawn like bees are drawn to a flower, right? In the same way, whoever comes across Krishna becomes deeply attracted. As the more you hear about him, the more attracted you get, the more you want to know, "Well, what is this? Why is this?" And that is why you'll find that people will keep coming back again and again, wanting to hear more and more and more. Many of the wonderful beings we have here on this group, and many of them, some of them are able to make it and some of them are not every time, but they're here consistently, have been for now about almost a year and a half, 2 years that we've been doing this. They're drawn to Krishna in a way, as I have been, where there's is just something that just transports us into another world, and that keeps us coming back for more. It's like food for the soul, and that food for the soul nourishes our soul, gives us something that is so incredibly beautiful that nothing in the world compares to it. An unfolding, yes, exactly. And it can be an unfolding that is a little at a time, and for some people it happens all at one time, but doesn't mean any one process is better or worse than the other. So like a lot of times when you read of people who have sudden enlightenments, people think, "Oh my gosh, I've never had that." Well, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be very sudden, and it can be very gradual, and a gradual unfolding. So I love that word. Thank you. Hmm. No, everything, even the cheating of the cheats. Yeah, he says everything. He talks of sex. He talks of any kind of good or bad, good and evil. So essentially, all that is good and all that is evil, all that is right and all that is wrong, light and dark, all of that comes from him. All that is, exactly. Absolutely. You've got it. There is nothing other than him. Now, within, yes, I think that's the Bible, isn't it? And maybe someone could do a little Google search there. Gabriel, are you there? It's in the Bible, I'm pretty sure. It would be in the Old Testament and probably in Genesis. Yeah. Yes, it's the same God. No, 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 it's the same God. There aren't different gods, there's one God. And we're talking about the same God, which is why it's so sad to see people fight with each other or argue with each other. It's just that we have to put our egos aside and we have to openly listen to each other. The teachings of the Bible, they're not in any way contradictory. Yes, the customs of the time were different. Yes, the people of the people that are being spoken to are different. Arjun has grown up learning these things from a very young age, whereas some of the people Christ was talking to, for example, were fishermen. They were not highly educated. They were not. Arjun was a prince. He had been brought up in studying all kinds of things ever since a very young child. So it depends on who you're talking to. You can't speak Shakespeare to an uneducated person. You need someone who has a good grasp of the language, and then can begin to understand the nuances of Shakespeare. So in the same way, the same God is being explained, but at different times in different ways to different people, right? Once you see that, there's all a continuum. There is no, you don't need to reject anything. They're all beautiful, wonderful understandings about God. Unfortunately, like when I talk with friends who are Christian, they don't want to hear that. I love hearing what they've got to say, and we'll often go over their texts and the things that they read. It's like, wow, this is so amazing. Or go to church with them, or I'd listen to the Quran or listen to the Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikhs, or the Sufi teachings, and they're just so incredibly beautiful. And if you find God everywhere, including, like some people say, oh no, you shouldn't go to this kind of place or that kind of place because that's a place of sin. No, no. Once you begin to see God, even in a glass of wine, you're not going to feel, you will find there is nothing sinful. Sinful is, in fact, Christian friends tell me this. They said the word sin actually means being separated from God. So if you want to truly be with God, then find God everywhere, in everything. It doesn't mean you do an excess of anything, whether that be wine or anything else. It doesn't mean you do it in any way that is um, harmful to your body or mind or spirit. Um, be very careful with those things because they can be damaging and they can be addictive and they can be harmful. So when you're going to play with fire, be very well equipped to play with it. He is the non-duality and the duality. So here's the thing. There are two paths on spirituality when it comes to India, and you will find that the Indian spirituality talks of God as being non-dual, as in uh, beyond duality. Okay, so in fact that is very true because where there is duality, there has to be the mind. So it is the mind that perceives duality. Yeah. Non duality means to go beyond the mind. The mind sees things as good and bad, right? As or good and evil, if you want to use that expression, as right and wrong, um, as hot and cold. Where is all this being perceived? It's in the mind. Once the mind is taken out, then things are just what they are. There is nothing like good or bad. Nothing is right and wrong. Things are just exactly what they are. Somebody did something. Okay, they did something. Hmm. Uh huh. Really, this is what scientists will tell you about molecules. Ah, we seem to be like that. A lot of molecules in motion. Each one of us being like those molecules, and each one of us in random motion doing random things, trying to get organized, and yet somehow very scattered in our thinking, in our actions, um, and ultimately, it doesn't really it's not leading to anything. If you say, well, what is this life leading to, right? What is our life leading to? You spend this whole life working hard, taking care of this body, feeding it, clothing it, taking care of your family, raising them, and nothing against all that, but if you look at the bigger picture, where is it really going? Nowhere. Just you're going straight. You're going from birth to death, and in between you're preserving this body which will perish, and then it'll be gone. So what happened? What did you achieve when you've left this body? What will you say to yourself? What did you do? And that becomes the only thing that makes any sense, right? That you tried to understand that which was beyond this. What is the word? Give me that again. Brownian motion. That was beyond this random motion of existing here and doing random things so that we could exist. So it was beyond, we were trying to go beyond survival to look at another possibility of why we're here. We went from survival, then we've come into an age where people think it's all about knowledge and intelligence and information. But it's not that either. No matter how much knowledge or information or intelligence you have, that's not it. Because that isn't giving you any sense of fulfillment or transcendence or a sense of, essentially, no matter how much you do, whether that is through scientific advancement or whatever, you're not able to get out of suffering. The release from suffering occurs when you have release from the mind. For most people, that happens at death. That's some other time, right? Oh, thank you, Rima. Now I have the spelling. Okay, it's pretty simple. Yeah, Brownian in that sense. Okay. So the release from suffering only happens at death. Till then, everything we're doing is an effort to be free from suffering. We have a house, we have a car, we have food, we have all these things. Why? So that we don't suffer. If you didn't have food, you would suffer. If you didn't have a house, you would suffer, right? If you didn't have a way to get to the work by which you earn the money to pay for that food and house, you would suffer. You would have to walk, right? So it would be it would be fair, I think, to say that everything we do is to somehow be free from suffering. That freedom arises by becoming free from our mind. So, two things happen through the process of meditation. If you really achieve what it's trying to, where it's trying to take you, by becoming free from the mind, doesn't mean you don't have a mind. It simply means now you're free from it. What does it mean, freedom? Freedom means you're able to observe it. You're not identified with it. You're able to challenge it. You're able to steer it. You're able to direct it. You're able to give it a sense of um, clarity, which it in itself does not have, right? So you as the soul become the guide for your mind. But it only happens when you're able to separate from it. The first part that is hardest is to separate from it. We are such and so enmeshed with our mind. We are so infused with our mind that we believe that whatever it tells us is true. I challenge you, take this on. Through the week, keep challenging your mind and saying, how do you know it's true? What's the evidence? Prove it. And if you really challenge it hard, you'll find it doesn't have evidence for most of the things it's thinking. Unless you're talking about practical matters, which you already know about. Okay? But I mean, if I challenge it and I say, if I take, I mean, at the deepest level of challenging, if I was to challenge, say, this is a phone, but if I actually took this phone and I looked at it under a microscope, under electron microscope, I would see there's no phone here. There's just a bunch of molecules and atoms and protons moving around in space. 99% of it is air. So even that would not be true. So if you keep challenging it, you'll notice that suddenly you become free of it. You're not believing it anymore. You've broken the cord and you're now able to watch it. Then you come to the next step where you're watching it, but you're not falling for the stuff it's telling you, right? You listen to advertisers on TV. By now, I think we know they're advertising, that what they're saying is not true. And we don't have to believe everything they're telling us, and we don't have to go out and buy everything they're telling us to buy, right? In the commercials on TV. So, in the same way, you'll be able to do that with your mind. In fact, you'll be able to press the mute button as you do in a commercial and mute your mind and say, okay, I don't need that anymore. Thank you. And very firmly, it'll stop. When you say it with great authority, it will stop. But if you are kind of wishy-washy, it will not. So, or you can do the meditation. The deep breathing itself will help you. All right, Krishna goes on. For the previous verse was really wonderful. He says, know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there, Arjun, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. What need is there of all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So to pervade means to be like the sun's rays pervade the entire universe, right? In the same sense, he pervades, his energy pervades the entire universe and supports it. With that, we come to the end of chapter 10, and we're now about to begin chapter 11, the universal form. That's right. Sure. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, exactly. And so that's the choice that Krishna actually gives him. He says, look, the battle has already been won. So if you want to fight it or not fight it, that's up to you. Right? He shows him. You'll see in this chapter. He shows him this. The battle has already been won. I want you to become famous and glorious as the winner of this battle. But the choice is entirely yours. Do as you wish. It begins by, you see, let's start this. And on one hand, when we talk of Brownian motion and we say, oh, this is all random, this is true. At the same time, there is a certain thing going on over here, a certain drama going on. The more we begin to understand this as a drama, our entire life and our history and everything else, the more we'll be able to step back and watch it and actually begin to learn from it. But to say there's nothing going on would also be untrue, right? To say that you do not exist would also be untrue. We actually exist and do not exist at the same time. We are like the characters on a movie screen, right? The characters in the movie screen, yeah, there's something to it. There was a movie that was made, people acted, there were directors, there was all kinds of stuff that went into creating that movie. So I can't say the movie just because it is on a film right now of called a screen, and because it's only shadows of light, falling on